as this is expecting a URL. If I pass a URL, so the external names and the internal name should not be the same. That's a best practice. So that's why I wrote a small URL and I'm passing. So what are the URL I pass? So it should execute now. You see here, the first two things it executed, but for this one it threw an error. So what is the reason for the error? Means you gave a format and it is saying that, hey, when I'm doing json.load, I'm getting an issue. Why I'm getting an issue? Let me debug. Here there is an issue. So I do a breakpoint. This is how we do in real time. If I debug, and the cursor will go till there and it will pass. And I will ask, hey, why you are getting a problem? So when your this is printing, it is going like very big crazy thing. So why it is showing like this? Let me show. I didn't understand what is this. So how we can say PP content, so content, right? So PP means like pretty print. So even within the breakpoint debugger also we can do like that. PDB. So it is saying that some big statement came, but even then it is not that easy for us to understand. So if I see the entire URL also, it is crazy. I did not understand. If I go slowly, I can understand some such boxes. This is some HTML. If I debug, so what is the URL that I'm passing? Then I will understand something interesting. If I say, hey, ask like, what is the URL? Did you see that URL is having an extra slash? Because in the first time when you are adding empty. When you are adding empty, so don't you see things are like this? So then how to handle in this space where we have this? In this case, as we have a double slashes, we need to remove that. That is the extra cleansing we need to do. Sometimes you will have this kind of edge cases. We need to be handling that. Let me show you like how I handle it. If I have this URL, which I'm generating is like this, and if URL is having these two slashes, I just want to trim. Okay, so then what we can do? I can just remove. So URL is equal to URL dot strip of, so this slash, especially you want to strip at the right direction. I do it. R strip of any character means any number of occurrences there in the right side, it will remove it. And the cleansed URL, I passed it this time. Now I understood the problem. I will cancel it and I want to rerun it again. Now I understood this problem. So I will comment this breakpoint. So this time when I'm running, I will not do anything. Let's see. You see, again, I got an issue. So now this time I need to find what is the reason again. So if I execute again, I placed a breakpoint. And if I execute again, you can notice that it is running. And it comes here till here and you understand. I will ask like inside it has a URL, right? I understood previously the problem is with URL. I'm asking here what is the URL. Okay, it is giving something like this. So with this URL, why you are not getting? Maybe now I'm thinking that one of the slash is needed, which is not there. Due to that, the issue is. Now I will take like, URL plus equal to, I want to add a slash. Now I'll ask what is the URL? I got URL with slash, right? Now with this content, I want to re-execute this logic and check what I am getting. So again, content is equal to this thing I'm doing. And this time I try to do a JSON.loads. So am I getting something or still I'm getting this issue? I'm still getting the issue. And if I say the content, it is nothing right now. Means they are not giving anything to us. So means like when you ask directly without any URL or so endpoint, they are not giving us. But see here, so they are doing like this here without any slashes or anything in the URL. Means they have decided that if you come with this URL, you should come in the browser. If you are coming in a Python request or something, you should come with an extension. So that is how people have designed. Means it is, if your application is there, you can design your own way. They have designed like that. So now we understood that this is not possible from this and we can remove it. See how I am doing in real time, I'm telling. So if I understood the problem, I'm stopping it, and I need to remove the breakpoint. Yeah, remove. Hoping that remaining will execute. I'm just doing it. So again, I got a problem this time. So I means I don't want this extra strip again anymore. So because it's working perfectly, it's working. Oh, still I got an issue. Now I need to check again the issue. This time, what is the problem? So instead of every time checking it, it's better if you write some kind of logging or anything to better do it, right? So maybe like I'm making an ordinary print statement. So working with whatever the URL is, I can write like the URL, what are the URL is user giving. Maybe like I write an underscore to make it like something protective. So yeah, I write like this, and I'm working with that URL. Okay, what are the user gives that URL? I just want to check in which URL it is failing. For the JSON, working with JSON means I got it, right? So after that, working with CSV, I got an issue. So because like as it is a CSV, how can you do download like this? Because for CSV, you should do in a CSV way. For JSON, in JSON way. So that is a problem. Now, did you understand what is the problem? Now, in this particular problem, how to solve this issue? For JSON, we need to parse in a different way. For CSV, another way. How do you write the content now? You write another function. So like parse JSON. If the user is giving like content like that, you parse in this way. So whichever the user passes now, that content you take it, say underscore content, whatever is coming, and you are passing the JSON, right? For JSON. So now like if it is so and so, whichever it, I can say that return the content. So based upon, so this function job is like just run the thing and parse it. In the same fashion, here its job is what? Parsing the so content as JSON. Similarly, I need to write one more function now, and how to use it here. So based upon the format, I need to do the get data, and the result I need to store. So result content I need to store, and that I need to pass to another function. So parse JSON or so and so. If result content is equal to JSON, sorry, if the each format is equal to JSON, then I want to do with a JSON, right? So parse JSON. So elif, so each format is equal to CSV. Then I need to parse a CSV. How do you parse a CSV? So if you are getting a CSV content, how do you read it? So what is the module for reading CSV data? Yes. If you want to parse CSV, so simple. So what are the content you are getting? You can take and you can parse with a CSV module. Or if you want to write to a files, so that is also possible. So not only just parsing, maybe parsing I told just now, right? And this time, if I want to write to a file, then how do I write to a file? So, so parse the CSV like that. And similarly, it can parse the content, which are you gave like a CSV or so and so. And this time, if I want to dump to a file, so that also I can do to make the things easy for you. So similarly for JSON, I wrote like this, right? For others, if I want to write to a file, so then like I can simply write. So rewriting whole structure, what are the URL you have? So I want to write to a file right now instead of parsing the content. The content which I got, and I open the particular format. Say with open of what are the file name. So result dot which are the format I got, like if I'm getting like each format I'm doing. So means like each time if it is a JSON, YAML or so and so it is coming, and I'm writing to a file write mode as file handler. So within that I do what are the content I get. So after opening, so file handler dot write of what are the response content you have that you write. And once you wrote, you can just close it. And if you don't close also, it will automatically do. So this time, instead of printing, I'm just doing like this. You observe. So the first two things only I printed, and subsequently I'm writing to files. Did you see that it is writing to some files? So this is how you get the data. So it is saying in CSV means you got something like this. And if it is JSON, like this. So if it is an XML, you got the content like this. And similarly, if it is a YAML file, so YAML will be like a key column value like that. You got it. So this is how you got a typical data from some website. And say, sir, so if I'm getting so data from anywhere and I want to split it. So and I want to store the content, I can do that. So how I can better do is like the same thing we can also do with another module. There is some more thing called as request module. So that also we can use for doing the same thing. So B getting this data. So till now what we can take and say like this is one of the requests we have. So this is how we did, right? The same structure will be there, but this is also one of the famous modules, requests. If you want to use it, first of all, you need to install it. So most of the time you see any documentation, you'll see this module. So pip install requests. It is plural, okay? -- user. If I do right now, it will go and install this module. So if it is already there, so then we need to upgrade it, right? So for that, like if you say -u, means if it is not there, install it. If it is already there, upgrade it to the latest version. As this latest version is already present, it's not doing anything more. So fine. Now we can use it. So earlier I told in the previous example, one example I gave, right? I just want to compare. Now, if I see here, you see now, so initially, so we have the earlier module, import urllib.request. And this one is one thing. So both the modules we have. Okay. And also we have like JSON module, something we did. Okay, we don't want to parse anything, just you want to print it. Okay, that's it. Our intention is. And if I have some standard URL for that, how I'm doing. So that's a main point. So I will make generic also in shortly. So let me do that generic also. I have a URL now and I want to do it. Okay, I have this URL. In the same fashion, if I want to do the same thing with this module also, same like that, but instead of doing this much logic, I can do in a much shorter way. How I do? Response is equal to requests dot get of what are the URL you have, URL you pass. That's it. And the beauty is like by default it has the content. So means response dot content will be there here also. If you want to convert, like we can say so JSON response is equal to JSON dot loads, right? That is how we did earlier. We can write. Or there is one more option only for JSON. They gave it because JSON is most commonly used. They come up with an option that hey, same JSON response, instead of doing like that, you can get that response.json. There is one option. This is one way or that the one way. There is nothing like JSON.xml or something. So, but this is option is there. And if I ask, hey, what is that?
Sir,
Yes, please.
We install pip install request. So we don't need to install the JSON if we don't have it.
No, JSON, request.url, these are like built-in modules. Okay. So you need not install.
That's why we install the request, but we don't need to install the JSON.
Yes, right? Yes. We need not install because they already came the moment you install Python.
Okay.
Okay. So if I say Python b so and so, if I execute, and you can see that in the first case also and second case also, both are showing like a dictionaries, right? Means you are getting the JSON response, so you're consuming. So hope it's clear. You're getting the data whatever you want, and it's up to you whether you want to write to CSV or JSON or something. But this request module by default comes like this. But if you want to write to a CSV or something, then we need to write to a corresponding things. Say like if I take the same URL and this time if I want to write to a CSV or something. In this case, you take the request again, same request again. I got the response. So I got the response.content is there, right? That I need to take. So means like with, so open of, so what a response, so our result dot CSV. So you want to write more. So as a file handler, you can do file handler dot write of this content, request dot content, and so on. And when you're writing, so you see one more important thing you need to observe. This is the most common error everyone you will face whenever you are writing this kind of byte data. So it is saying what? Write argument must be string, not bytes, it is saying. How to address this problem? There are two ways. First, understand what is the problem. This write is expecting a string by default because you have given like this. Now to address this problem, there are two solutions because these are like most real-time problems you face. Either you convert this content to an ordinary content. So by using a decode and you pass like UTF-8 like that. This is one way. Or the other way is like you can do a WB. So what I'm trying to say, in this case, I give like a W, means like I'm telling that, hey, do in a write mode, I will pass a string. In this case, you are telling that, hey, write in a write mode, I will pass a bytes. When I told that I will pass a bytes, I need not do decode. So method 1 or method 2, either we can go. So it will execute. And if I do both of them, it will overwrite. So that's the point. Hope it's understood.
Yeah, can we do fh.write str response.content over here?
str content to again converting to str instead of decoding, you are saying?
Yeah.
Let me give a try for you to understand. So how things works, let me prove. So she's telling that instead of decoding like this, can't we convert to a str built-in function, and can't they work? It's working. It's working. But like, so that's the most common way you do. Okay, like that. So CSV, similarly YAML or any content. Now in this way, if it happens, not just like CSV or YAML, even image data also we can write. So that's a point. So to make the things more easy, I write like one specific way to handle all these kinds of use cases in one shot. So there is like, I want to do with a different format right now. Say, I now want to go to another thing. You remember, if you just give a format, it will give your details and your location and others. Whereas if I give another IP address, so that specific IP address it will take, and for that IP address it will do. Okay. So first we need to take the data and you need to format it. So now I want to write some logic which can do this one. So first, let's say I want to take the first example. I want to write like a function which can take and print the data. You see, I'm writing some if condition. So means before that, I want to design a solution like this. I need to write a function called as print and write response. Means it should print and also write the response. It should take your IP address and also the format. Means so most generically I wrote IP address also you should take and your output format you want. So here you are passing IP address and an output format. And similarly down the line I want to do multiple other things like different formats. Say same like JSON, I want to achieve for others also. So I want to write JSON P, I want to write XML, CSV, YAML. That's what we have right earlier. For all the formats, it should work. All should be written in a single function. So this is how people write in real time. So till now how to work on it. I'm just giving a solution like this. Now how we do it? First we need to create the URL, right? No matter what the people give, we need to construct the URL. See, the URL, I told you the Swagger how it works. I do like a formatting, and within that I wrote. And here, two things it expects. One is the IP address. I take this IP address, what user is giving. And similarly, the output format, what user is giving. So if the user is not giving also, if you want to make some default also, you can mention that. Say if the user is not giving, I want to make the default as JSON. That I want to do. So maybe like, so JSON response itself, I want to do twice. So first, initially, I don't want to pass anything. In that case, it will take the defaults. In other case, it will take the things. Okay. All the ways. Now, every time I got the URL. So first, if I print the URL, I'll get what is URL. Now this URL, how I need to pass? Logic I told very simple. If you want the content, URL lib dot request dot URL open of whatever the URL you have. So you got the connection, sorry. If you got this one connection. And in URL lib, if you are using, first we need to import it. Import URL lib. URL, right? URL lib dot request. And so after the connection, if you want to get the content is equal to connection dot read. So then I read the content. What are the content I got? That content I want to write to a file or do something. First initial stage, I want to just print it. So right, if I execute it, CLS and Python, so C so and so. You see, each time when you are giving the data for different formats, URL, sorry, I will confuse. Open. Okay, it's a typo. If I execute, you get the content. What is saying? Hey, you gave all the formats, it's working. But when you give nothing, no format, then also it should work, right? Every time. Verified for JSON. Yeah, after that you need a slash in the end. Why it is failing again? Not found. What is that not found? It is unable to do. URL lib error, HTTP error, 404. Okay, what is this HTTP error? Now you understood this process. As we came to this, I will tell you what is the statuses. HTTP statuses. So HTTP status codes .txt. What are the HTTP status codes? Why they come? What is the purpose? Say whenever you are requesting something, you get a response, right? Say I came to your home. I'm asking for some books. Let's say you are in a library or I'm in a library. I'm asking you for some books. So you will search in the library as you are a librarian. You check, and if the book is there, you will give it. If the book is not there, you cannot give it. So that's what happens. But like, how do you recognize that every time? That this is what the thing. So I cannot give an explanation because if I do in English, other person may not understand English. So some other language. For everyone to understand, they decided on some standard codes when they are communicating. So the codes were like either 100 series, second 200, 300, like that. So it doesn't mean that we have everything, but not everything is important. The most important things only are out. If you request for something to server is giving back you some response. Whenever it is giving data also, it will give some number to uniquely recognize. So one such thing is this. So 100 series means, hey, everything is okay, like informational. And if it is 200, means I got everything correctly, I can use it. So means 200 means everything okay, 201 means created, accepted, like this. In different requests, you will get different responses like this. And similarly, redirect means, hey, you asked for me a book. we don't have in this library, go to another library, there we can get. So like that, the request, whatever is coming, they will redirect to another server. Or like sometimes we'll have proxies. So proxies will take a middle layer whenever you're passing. Or similarly, when you make a request, there could be a problem from your side also, right? Maybe you don't know how to give the request. You need to pass like a JSON input, but you gave like a YAML. Or you need to do proper request you didn't do. And similarly, unauthorized means you have made request properly, but you are not having proper authorization. And like some payment required, some APIs if they are payment, and like forbidden, you were not supposed to access it. And if you are going for an endpoint which is not there, or a method which is not there, like that, all user related problems. That's why these are called as client side errors. Who is the client? We, the people who are consuming the API, are called as clients. So if Facebook is opening one API, we are consuming means we are clients. And who is the server side means the server where it is located. So if any server, so now with this IP addresses, server is there, right? For that. Server side also some errors may happen. Maybe you execute some code, suddenly they came to an edge case and it was failing and it resulted in an exception. So the server was down. So then like an internal server error comes. Or some feature if they didn't implement, not implemented error. Or like bad gateway. So means server gateway timeout. When too many people are hitting to the server, so you can see that server cannot do everything. So like that, server side errors also may come. So like that, you got one such error. So right now, when you're working, you got one such error. If I execute again, now you will understand, first of all, when things happen. What is saying? Not found 404. 404 not found. 404 means what? Means the endpoint that you actually executed is not found for me. So how it is actually working? So till now we executed, but I don't have. I'll go to this website and ask, hey, why you didn't get it? I did the same thing in the URL also. It is saying, I don't know. Means I did something mistake. If I go ahead and see to their format, what they told, if you want for a specific IP address, they told you to give in a particular way. They told to give in this way, right? Now I will copy that content and my content, whatever I did. If you compare these two, you will understand it. See here. So IP address they asked to do and IPO something. Now let me go back to our website and let's check it. What mistake I did. So if I go here and if I say like URL is equal to F, within that I wrote it. IP address they are expecting, I write the same IP address. And similarly, format they are expecting, output format also I wrote it. Output format also I got. Now, did you see what is the problem? I added one more thing called as API, right? Maybe like this time they changed the API. Sometimes the people will change, right? They are also developers. So they remove this /API. Now, if I execute it right again, did you see? It is executing, you got the response. Super. So that is how we work in real time. I'm showing you how to run something. When you're facing a problem, how to address it. Everything I'm showing you here. So let's see how it works. Next, after this, we got the content now. After getting the content, what is the next point? We need to save to some file, right? So let me try that also. So yes, please.
There is a function print and run transpose IP address. Output
Yes.
format is equal to JSON. We have to mention JSON over here. Output format is equal to JSON.
No, it is a default format I mentioned.
Oh,
so
okay.
in this case here,
It's ignoring. Okay.
Yeah, function. If you pass, it will take it. If you don't pass, it will take the default.
Okay, got it.
That is my initial thought. So, okay. Now I have this content. I first printed the content. I got it. So similarly, what I want to store in a file also, right? Earlier we stored in a files. This time also I want to store. See, I want to write one more function called as write to file. Generally in Python, the best practice is if you want to consume any function, before consumption, you need to define that function in the top. Because Python is a top to bottom approach, it expects like that. Even if you write down also, it works sometimes, but it is not a good practice. So now, if I want to write it, how I do? Say this file should take two content. What are the content you pass? So means the data. So see here, every time if you have the same variables, place with an underscore such that things will not be the same. Say if I have content here, then I can write data directly. What are the data I'm coming? Like an extension. Two things are coming to me, I need to do. So I need to write in a generic way. How I write in a generic way? So where this file is there, here only I need to write the content. So in the current directory, I need to write this file. So first of all, I need to know current directory, right? Or say assume that I am not writing any current directory, just I want to write the file. So how I write? With open of what are the file? Say like I have response dot, what are the format I have? Extension name. If I do like a f string, I get the response as file handler. So what I did previously, the same thing I will do. Fh dot write of. So what are the content I have or data I have? And as you know, we need to do in a read mode or write mode. You should explicitly write. If you don't write, by default it's a read mode. So if I say write binary, and if I do a data, so that's it. I need not close again, so it will execute. This time I'm not printing it, I'm just passing the things. You see now, for each of the things it has done, and it is coming the data. So as in the previous case, here also it is giving, but this time it is overwriting, right? Instead of my details, it is showing things else. I don't want to overwrite it. These details should be separate, those details should be separate issue. Means I want to store in some results folder. How do you create a folder? So in real time, see here, if you want to create a folder, we need to use OS module. In OS module, we should have like OS dot. So there are two things in mkdir. I want to create a directory called as, so specific responses, specific IPs, okay, specific IP details, something. So this is what I want to create. So after creating this, within that I want to do. So maybe like I'll write folder name. Folder is equal to like this. Okay. Within that I want to do. So I do like this is a folder name. And within the folder name I want to do. So in Linux, so or Windows, if you want to do, I can do a slash. Linux slash also works in both the cases. This time if I execute, what is saying? Hey, specific slash response you are doing, it is invalid. Means you cannot do everything on your own. You should do in a proper way. So in Python, how do you create a path? There is like os.path.join, right? So if I say like, so file path is equal to os.path.join. So I'm not making things complicated. I'm trying to help you understand such that you will understand like how things works in real time. This is how it works. And if I execute right now, it will need to go to the directory. Cannot create a file when the file already exists. Means in the first time when you executed, this file folder was created. Now when you're doing it is saying I cannot do. Then what is the solution? I can check whether the file is present or not and do it. So if os dot, if not os dot path dot exists of this particular folder, then like you want to create it. In other cases, you don't want to create it. If I execute again now, it is doing what? Hey, you are doing in the file option, you need to pass it file. You see now, it is creating the response, it is storing in a file. So this is how it will work. Now, I did for the specific IP addresses. You take an assignment to give like in a some 100 IP addresses, and like in that we need to do. So take an assignment that first you need to create some 100 IP addresses. Create so 100 fake IP addresses. So get data, get only CSV data of all in one single CSV file. Okay. So take that as an assignment and you work on it. So you got the content. Now, if you want to parse it and extract it, so we need to use a module called as JSON. Hope you remember we used a import JSON. So generally all import should be in the starting. So that's why in the top we will place. So import JSON and using JSON.load, because it's like a string, load as of this content. This content right now, if I ask, hey, what is the content? I get it back. Content as a JSON. If I want, I got it. And if I ask, hey, print of type of, so content JSON, and if I say content JSON, you can notice the difference. Because it has like a string, it is showing like that for you. So hope now you understood. So how the information is passed from the source to destination, like a bytes. That's the reason you see in the bytes, right? And it's like a string. And if you want to do it first, we need to decode it, and then we need to pass to the JSON.string. What if the response is coming like an XML? Then you need to use XML parser. As it is a JSON, from JSON format to Python format means what? Dictionary. How to convert? For that we use the JSON.loadas. Hope it's clear how it's working. Now, if I need to repeat the same thing again, as we know, right, in a file handlers, we have a context library, right? So with context, if I need to do the same thing here, how do I rewrite? So with context manager, how we do? Context manager. So whatever the source is there as, and the result you are storing in URL handler, the module, and within that you do. Means you need not close again everything. So once your work is done, it will automatically close. So then like whatever the statements you have within it, you can just take it here. If I do right now as a handler, I'm taking the URL and getting the content. Oh, with, I forgot to write with. Yeah, with statement, these things. And you know these content. And also, instead of doing in 2 lines, and if you are getting some data, you can also do the same thing here. In 1 line also you can do. So instead of writing a big lines, I'm making it very simple. In both the ways, I'm getting the content. But what are the content I'm getting? Dictionary type, and you are getting the content. Okay. And if you want to store in a CSV file or HTML file, all those things you can do. So now, in the same fashion, I need to repeat the same thing for others also. And how I will do, let me show you. And if now the results I want to store, that also I will do. Before that, first I'm getting. In the same fashion, you have URL, right? In this URL, I told this is a format that you're doing. In this format, you can do for multiple formats. Means like if I do like a different format, I'll get a different things. What all formats are supported? So they are supporting like by default, if you don't give anything, it is like a HTML data which will come. So means like default means if you don't give anything HTML, and if you give some formats like JSON or like a CSV, or there is something like a YAML. So let me see again that particular board. We will understand. So where we are here. Yeah, you see here. So what are the different formats it is saying? Specific location like JSON, JSON PE, XML, so and so. JSON P is something format suitable when you're working in front end. Okay, so with JavaScript etc. it would be really helpful, but others are like this. So JSON I told, JSON P if we can ignore. So XML is there, CSV is there, YAML is there. Okay, so these were the things. So now for each of these formats I want to do. See how I am automating. And these were things which I don't change within the code, right? So place in a tuple. And for each other format, so I can say like each format in, can I do like print each format? Each format, if I ask, I get the answer, right? It's in each format is like either of these formats. Now I got these formats. Now with these formats, I want to automate. See how I do in real time. I'm showing you the same process. Now I have a string, so which I need to do. So I have a string which I need to do. Okay, I have the string and I need to pass to this format. And how do I pass? Don't you think that if I want to do the formatting, can I do like this? Yes, I can pass. And instead of the format, can I do like this? Each format? If I do like this, it's like an F string formatting. And you get everything, right? So you got all the things. You got all the URLs, whichever you have. And whenever you don't have anything, so you are not even adding anything. So then like for all these formats, you want to check what will be the output. Okay. So means if you don't give also, it will come, right? Yeah. Let's see. And for each of the format, I want to do the same logic. So this time I write a function, define get data. I pass this to a function. Instead of placing like this, I pass to a function and I want to do this function. So don't you think instead of printing, I am just passing to this function. You see now how I'm doing in real time. And if I execute, you can notice that it is saying, so what is a web service? Why we need it? What are the advantages of going for a web services? What all things we can gain from this in the process? Okay. So in that, first we can focus on like first initially in the earlier days, if you want to communicate between two devices, let's say there is device 1 and there is device 2. How do you communicate between them? There should be an understanding protocol, right, for communicating. So the most common protocol is like either TCP or like UDP came to picture. So means like here also from this side, if let's say someone want to communicate this side, so they will pass either in of the protocols. The protocol means like TCP means transmission control protocol. UDP means user datagram protocol. So see, simple. If you want to send something to another person, there are two ways that you want to know. Let's say you are daily sending some kind of report or something like a health check or something. In that case, you don't want an acknowledgement. Let's say someone is coming to your home and distributing some pamphlets about some advertisement. They don't want to come to your home and check whether you received that pamphlet or not. Whereas, if let's say you are getting some kind of registered post or like some bank notice or something, in that case, they want an acknowledgement that you received, right? See, in real world itself, we have these kind of things. In the same fashion, when communicating also, that kind of things happens. Then like, okay, so in the left side also, means both devices should be there in the process. Then like overall period, the protocol is same, but how the data comes. So let's say we have a database in one side and you want to access. There is one database and I have like 3 users. So user 1 want to access, user 1 want to get, and similarly user 2, user 3. So like that, multiple people want to get the data from the same database. You place it somewhere commonly. Then what happens? Every can connect to the database and get the data, right? But the problem is like, can we rely on every person? What if some other person has corrupted it? Maybe intentionally or unintentionally. So maybe like someone is using more or someone is using less. Or let's say you want to limit certain people to access certain amount of data. So if you want to do those kind of controls, so we cannot do all these things directly in the DB layer. So we need to have something else, right? So that's where the protocols came. So earlier there used to be something called as RPCs, means remote procedure calls. Now no more it is there. But earlier, after that, like, within that XML RPC came. Means we used to use XML for communication. Then like JSON RPC came. That also has gone legacy. Then like you have SOAP interface, which was there for quite some time. So a SOAP is like mainly with XML. Whether you want something or you want to get back something, everything you need to pass a XML. That's the point. So, but like then it also became legacy for the past 5 years. Now most of the people are with the REST APIs. This is like now ruling the world. The REST API means either you can pass in a JSON or an XML, but most of the people use JSON. So things are very easy. It's not the payload which is changing. In the process in which they do is changing. Maybe as a beginner, as you don't know anything. So if I explain one also, it would be difficult to understand the other. So we will start working with these REST APIs. From there onwards, you will navigate. And after that, so recently, some more maturity came is like one of the other one is GraphQL. This is another maturity. Means like, so REST API means you have a database in the backend, you place an interface, what need to be given exactly. Whereas in GraphQL, you just expose your database via one kind of interface where users decide what they want and how they want. And next, one more thing, one more maturity came these days is called as, gRPC. gRPC means like, let's say, if you want to make some query to be executed, instead of the code itself will go to the client location and execute. So generally, let's say you have a logic to calculate prime number, and you have in your server. If user is coming and saying like, hey, I want to get the prime numbers between 2 and 5. So means the query the user will give, and you will execute at your server and give the response. Rather, gRPC means like the function itself will go to the client location and execute. Maybe this seems something, too much of knowledge, but once if we go through one after the other, you will understand slowly. So to make the things easy for you, we can start with the first thing called as REST APIs. How do you consume REST APIs? What is a REST API and all these things? First, let's say consuming REST APIs. So REST, what is the REST? REST stands for like representative state transfer protocol. Means here in a REST API, what will happen is typically when you are working, it has these things. A underscore REST API.md. So every time I create a markup file so that it's easy afterwards. A typical REST API will have things. It's called as a REST is a abbreviation for representative state transfer protocol. It says that, the principles are like it should be stateless. Means today I came to you and asking for, hey, give me one apple. So again, if I come again and say like, hey, give me one apple. So if you have, you can give, that's it. You should not say like, you came sometime back. Means the current request should not be anyway associated with the previous request. Okay, previously, let's say you gave me, first 10 pages of a book. You should not come again and say like, as you previously came with first 10, now I will give next 10. It is my duty to ask the first 10 or second 10 or fifth 10. So whatever the request comes, every request should be treated uniquely. And one should not be dependent on another. That is the point of statelessness. And all the resources should be provided in a URL only properly. Some kind of encryption, sessions, and all these things are fine. At the same time, the most important thing you need to learn is that, so generally the REST API is exposing for some database. It doesn't mean that REST API means in the backend there should be database only, but most of the time there will be database. See how it actually works. If let's say you have a home, in your home you have some kind of racks, okay? Your tables are there, shelves or racks are there. And if you need to place the books, okay? So then what you will do? Either you place a new book into the rack, or you take a book from the rack, or you take, you update an existing book. So like that only you do, right? Your actions typically on a database or anything. So what the REST API did is that whatever you do, the actions in the database, the same actions were given with a particular method, like a get for something, post for something, put, patch, delete, like that. If you want to get the records, we should use the get method. If you want to create a record, you need to use a post method, like that. You can learn more about these methods whenever you're creating a REST API. So right now we are in the consumption phase. In the consumption phase, what you need to understand is that, so it is like having these headers. Not only this, it still have like head and others also. And also there is some concept called as idempotency. Means if the same request with the same method, if you do again and again, you should get the same answer. So these are like a get, put, update, delete. These are like idempotent. So get means every time the same thing. You are telling that I want red apples, which are from some particular place. Okay, it will take red apples from a particular place. If it has, it will give. That's it. If you don't have, it won't give. That's it. Whereas if you do post, means every time it will create a record. So the moment every time you do, it will be different. And also there are 2 points you need to understand. The REST API, when you're creating, you will understand more. But generally, I tell REST based is different from RESTful. REST based service means if it satisfies some of the rules. If something is RESTful means it supports all these features. So REST is some kind of standard, I would say. Someone has proposed and everyone is following. And as I again told, REST doesn't mean that it should give the data only in JSON. It can give data in JSON, XML, Atom, OData, many formats are there. So, and how best your REST API is really a REST API means there is some blog actually, you can read it. There is something called as Richardson maturity model. So it is all about theory. I think I'm telling too much of theory. Let's go to the practical purpose of how things are working. So if I can work on the first thing, say you have, let me take a one REST API and work on it. How do I understand this REST API? Let's see. I have a REST API and say I want to get the IP address details. Say get IP address. Okay, so this is what my thoughts are. Then how I'm getting is the question. Till now, you see every website, right? How the websites are working also, you'll understand a big understanding now. Okay, if I can share my screen. Okay, see here. So this is one website. So this website is something like this. So this website is getting some data. By seeing, you will understand. But if you go right click and you will understand that, more tools, if I go to the, there is something called as view page source. If I say like developer tools or something, you will understand. So I'm working in a Brave browser, but if you're in a Chrome browser or something also, some options will be different. But overall, you can see the source of the code. So a website you are seeing like this means it has these many files in the backend, some CSS files, some JavaScript files, so from image files. So all these things together, it is creating you this website. That's what you need to understand. So generally, if you go, you can get from this website directly the data. And we can scrap the data. That is called as web scraping. That is a bit hard. So at this moment, first I will start with the REST API, then I'll go to the web scraping. So whenever someone want to give the data properly, they will expose like a REST API. So these people are showing the UI also, at the same time REST API also. And in this case here, for this website, whoever opens, it will give the relative address, IP address. IP address, where exactly I'm resigning. So my region, country, postal code, everything it's giving. So some kind of things. And if I want to look up on a particular address locations, I can give that and it can help me. And at the same time, these websites also will give some kind of documentation, like how to address, how to get the data and others. And you see here, it is the introduction about it. What it is saying, you can get the following information in the IP address. Means all this city, region, just now I showed, right? That's what it's saying. And it is saying that I can also give location of the specific IP address. Means if you give in this particular format, I can help you, it is saying. So means what? So documentation is, this is called a Swagger or OpenAI documentation, like the different names are there. This is one kind of documentation where it is showing in the left side like what need to be done. Here on the right side, what is the typical request and response. Means if I say curl is one of the command in so Linux to do it. So in command line also, if you do, you do curl, or like in Python also you can do. In Python it is saying you, how to do the request. This is a request module we can use to get the data. If you do that, you get this as a response. As you have given like 8.8.8.8, for that 8.8.8.8, it is giving all this information. And similarly, it will show you what details it is giving and everything. And see, like, so if I go like a specific field I don't want everything. Say I want only the city. I can go. So I can go specifically for the city or the language or currency like that. So like that it is giving. Then it is giving location of the client IP addresses. Means if you give something like this, it can give the data. You see each time. So if I just do like a format without anything, it will give my IP address and my location and others. And here also, if I want my specific details, I can ask like this. And lastly, it is also showing you what kind of errors you can get potentially. Okay, I will tell all of them shortly afterwards. But this is one of the application we have where we can work on it. Now going back, how do we consume that? I will copy the same content what we get there, and we need to work on it. So first and foremost, I'll get this thing. I told, right, if you go for this format, instead of format, you should write like JSON, YAML, etc. If you write, it will give the data in that particular format. That's what we understood. And if I start with, say, so there are multiple modules to work with it. So the first module is like URL lib. And also be very careful. So these days, there were some masquerading modules are coming, like URL lib 4, URL lib 5, like that. So means like the modules we generally, if you don't have, we install, right? There were some third-party modules which came recently. So like Pipit, Python Software Foundation is deleting them. So be careful because some third-party modules are coming, and if you are not doing properly, they install and they gather your environmental information like your password, credentials, etc., and they pass on to some servers. So that's the reason, be careful about. Use genuine things and see about any module when you're using, how about the documentation and others. So in Python 3, we have like mainly the first module we have is like URL lib. So URL lib is one of the module we have. This will come built in. Okay. If I go for like, print dir of this URL lib, you can notice that if I ask, I can navigate to this directory. Okay. Python a so and so. Oh, I need to go into the directory. CLS and Python a so and so. Already see that it will give the list of attributes that it has. It has good number of attributes. Till now, we have seen any module, if you are going to use, we need to use like this, or it has some attributes means we need to use. But did you see there is nothing like a request here, right? Endpoints. But they created a module in such a way that if you need to use import URL lib.request. So, sir, can't I do like, so from URL lib import request? Can I do like this, sir? So is it possible if I do like, DRL of request? So request, okay? It's not plural, singular. It is saying like, oh, you also have some data and you can work on it. The problem is that, so there is another module called as request, which I showed earlier, which is like confusing. So that's why people don't use it like this. So to avoid these two things, people use simply, right? So import import url lib dot request. So this is how they do it. Okay, this is the context about this module. Then how to work with it, sir? It's very simple. Whenever you want to do a file operation, how you did? You did a file handler is equal to, so open of your file name, file.txt something in a read mode. Hope you remember, like this you did, right? In the same lines. So here also, here it is a file handler. Here you have a URL handler. URL handler is equal to, same like there here. Here also we have URL handler is equal to URL lib dot request dot this URL lib dot request dot so URL open. And we need to give the URL exactly. Say in this case, initially I'm taking the URL is equal to, what are the URL was given for us? This one. And they told it should be a get call. So I wrote here. And instead of format, I am giving something like a JSON. Okay, I give. Now this URL, I came to this URL. Same like file opening, here also it will happen. And so how you do in a file opening reading? So you open like file handler dot read means you get the data, right? In the same fashion here also, you got like, URL lib handler dot so read. If I read, I'll get the content. And I can mark the content as content is equal to something. And now I want to print the content. Okay. Same like that I'm doing here. And if you see now, right now, you can notice that it will show the entire data. But did you see that it is showing with a B in the starting? Because it's a binary data. So if you have a binary data, how do you get from it? I told like, if you have binary data and if you want to extract, we need to encode or decode. Decode of UTF-8. So if I do like a decode of UTF-8, now did you see I got it? In fact, it's a string. This entire content, whatever I got result was a string. So if I do like a string, I can say instead of that, hey, content is equal to content dot string. It's easy, right, for us? Now, after converting to string, I can ask like, hey, what is the type of this content? So in fact, it is a string type. It's not a JSON by default. The JSON is also formatted in such a way that you will see like that. So, and if you print it and you have seen the output, print it, you have seen the output. It is of string type of content, and like the content. So though it seems like a string, so JSON, it's not a JSON, it's a string. Okay. And if I go ahead, you can see that it's working like this. Now, if I want to access some information, how do I access it? How do you access it? How do you parse the content? How do you parse the content?
Like
Yeah.
from the file, right?
I have a string and I need to parse it. How do I do it?
Like for slicing or
If you have a string and if you want to parse the content, which is like a JSON, then don't you think that we need to use the JSON module, which you used earlier?
yes.
Yes, we need to use the same. We need to use the JSON module and work on it. So like that. And if I start working on that, initially we need to convert to JSON string and then work on it.